Good afternoon, all. I hope you are doing well and having a good week so far. For any of you who have children at school, good luck if your school holidays have started. Mine are due to start tomorrow, so the wonderful world of juggling will commence. My name is Paul Watson. I'm the VP of Hospitality at Sona. I've been with the business now for 3.5 years, pretty much since launch, and spent almost 2 decades of my time before that working for a workforce management solution. My history, before I entered the world of technology, I was a learning and development consultant and worked with lots of HR professionals and people teams. And I'm really excited to walk you through the functionality that we have been developing over the past half a year, 2 years, and some of the later functionality that I'm going to demonstrate to you today. A little bit of housekeeping. We have got a chat functionality. We can see some hellos coming through. Lovely to see you all. Please do ask questions. I will sort of keep going in there and checking. Christina, who has said hello to everyone on there, will also give me nudges if there are questions that are coming through. But hopefully what I'm going to be able to show you today is a good sort of example of the types of functionality and features you might want to be able to introduce to streamline your HR processes. So with all that being said, I'm going to share my screen and I am going to share with you. Oh, not that. There we go. So hopefully now we can see my landing page. And this landing page itself, some of you will be familiar with if you are Sona users. As you know, for us, security, hierarchy, and the setup of the solution is very important. We build out the Sona system to match your business requirements. And whilst I am in a hospitality environment here, it's an exact same look and feel if I'm working for a care company. And the scenarios and the examples I'm going to talk you through today will be relevant to both verticals and both sectors. So you can see the sort of the breadth and depth of functionality. And what's really interesting for me, having spent a lot of time within the hospitality sector, is how many similarities there are and the synergies across both care and hospitality. It's a similar workforce, it's a similar type of contract mix, etc. So how do we get the best out of your people, and how do we help you hold on to those sort of absolute diamonds in your organization? This landing page is very much talking to comms. So as a manager logging in, I'm immediately met with any documents that have been uploaded, company policies, any single sign-on to third-party products that I might need to have access to, or my team members, my employees within the app need to have access to. I can see some latest posts from the news feed. So what's the latest news? And this has been uploaded 2 hours ago. And I can also see any recent messages. So any of you that are using our comms platform will be familiar with this type of functionality. But this means that for us, engagement and communication is something that really runs through the entirety of the Sona solution. Whether that means that you're being able to send praise or a message on the back of a shift in the schedule, or being able to send documents out or forms out for your employees to fill in. And I'm going to take you through some of those different examples. Now, something that some of you may be familiar with, or not, as it may be, is our tasks functionality. So I'm going to show you this page now, and I'm going to then explain to you how these tasks start to come into life. Within Sona, we have got the capability to develop and build for you what we call sort of custom forms. So essentially identifying your company policies and processes and helping to build out pages and forms within Sona to help you manage them. And I'm going to give you a sort of different set of examples today in what I would sort of call a crawl, walk, run process. The crawl would be perhaps you want a way to keep all your employee documents in one place. And that might just be a case of uploading a document against an employee record, and I'll show you that scenario. You may have some processes that you want to systemize. So that might be, as an example here, a right to work document. So within the solution itself, we can build forms for you to capture right to work, DBS checks, Trust ID forms, etc., and capture those against an employee record. But you can also build in rules as well. So it may be that as a business, 90 days before your employee's right to work documents expiring, you want the system to send a nudge out to the manager advising them that they need to take action. And by clicking through here, I can go into Alan's record and then complete that task itself of uploading the latest document. I could want to go one step further. And with that, perhaps at 90 days, I want the solution itself to send out a request to the employee for them to upload a copy of their document, and for that information to then be passed through to me. The way that these tasks work is it can be driven to send the initial prompt or alert through to the employee's line manager. But let's say me, logged in as Billy, I don't take any action. And 30 days before this right to work document's expiring, you want more eyes on this situation before it perhaps becomes a problem within the business. So it might be that then that task needs to be pushed out to your HR and people teams, etc. So I'm going to show you how we get to this place. And further down here, you can see also I've got some data that I've received that I need to review. So rather than sort of chopping backwards and forwards from this page, I'm going to look at the core employee management screens and then share with you how we get these to surface. So as you know, employee management is where I find my list of employees. I'm going to select Alan. And this first page, as many of you will have seen before, captures all that information required to ensure that you can pass this data through to the schedule, which then obviously on completion of shifts pass through to Sona Pay. And once payroll has been processed, that can equally send FPS files through to HMRC. Once HMRC receives that data, if there are any changes to tax codes, national insurance categories, etc., whatever it might be, that can then be pushed back into Sona and updated as well. We have an API. So all of this information is really to make sure that we can match that employee within your records through to HMRC's database. But added on top of that, we do look at gender identification. Now, as we know, at the moment, HMRC still only accepts male, female. But as a business wanting to understand diversity, inclusivity, and equity, then you can look at gender identification and then drive dashboards to understand the makeup of your organization as well. As I look up at the top here, I've got these different columns. And the ones that I'm going to focus in on are really primarily employee details. The items that I see under here are either system built, so they are relatively static, but underneath them you can configure how they work. So skills and attributes, this allows you to layer another layer of detail onto the employee record. So they may be a waiter or they may be a care assistant, but can they do end of life care, or can they do cocktail making, or whatever those sort of different tasks are, and that informs through to the schedule itself. So making sure that the data that you're holding against the employee record informs the schedule, so that when it comes to shift allocation, you've got the right mix of employees at the right skill levels and the right attributes in order to fulfill an effective rota. Now, we talked about crawl, walk, and run. So as an example here, it might be that I start off with just wanting to upload some employee documents. And in here, I can add a document. These document types in the background can be configured. So all the different options in here are completely up to our customers. And I might want to upload a disciplinary record that has been written in hand up against the employee record. So that's fine. That's one way of systemizing or digitizing your employee files and creating that online filing cabinet. The challenge that you may get faced with there, though, is how you interpret the data that's within that document. So unless I go back in and view that document afterwards, how can I report on it? How can I see if there's something that I need to take action on? So that might be a really simple first step of we want to upload some documents. But I've also got this next section. Now, this is disciplinary and grievance. Now, this is actually a blend of a custom page, so this entire page here, and custom forms. What's really important is the wording and the views that you see here are just examples. So if you're looking at that and thinking, oh, that's not how we describe disciplinaries, or that's not how we want this form to look, this is just an example and it is fully configured by customer. So if I was, as an example here, needing to add a further disciplinary for Alan, in this example, I can see the fields that I've configured that need to be completed. And anything that's marked with an asterisk is something that becomes a mandatory field. So we can see here, this starts to allow me to collect information, which again is going to drive reports. And perhaps you want to introduce things like alerts. So if an employee receives 3 disciplinaries within a 24-month period, or perhaps within one location, have there been more than 3 grievances that have been raised? Well, maybe that's a problem. It's certainly a pattern, but you want to be informed so that you can take action before it becomes a problem for your organization. So this is where we can sort of take that step through from uploading a document to actually then how do we capture that information. I'm just going to rewind a little bit because I'm not sure where I lost you, but essentially where we start off with, so we talked about this sort of crawl, walk, run, and we looked at grievances and disciplinaries, etc. And we were saying that we can build these custom forms and we can build the sort of the custom items in there that you might want to fill in. But what we do with our customers, and all of these words that are entered into here and all of the different stages and the warning types are very bespoke by customer. And what we do is we actually sit down with our customers and we understand, well, what does your offboarding process look like? And what happens when someone needs to go on maternity and paternity, or the infinite amount of different scenarios. What's your right to work rechecks? Now, once we understand that, we can also build triggers in. So whilst I was going in there and adding that disciplinary to Alan's record, actually you might have some triggers. So in this example, I'm going to show you how you can start setting compliance triggers within the solution, which can activate a task. And here I'm logged in as a manager. So I've got my employee list and I've got a task. What I can see is that I need to initiate a disciplinary process for my direct report. And by clicking into here, I can see that it's because Adelia has had 4 instances of absence, and we've got a threshold for this organization of 3 instances per rolling period. Now, what's quite interesting with SSP from day one looming, we may well see a sort of move to systemize these types of scenarios. And it might not be a disciplinary, it might not be worded as a disciplinary, it might be an HR meeting, however you refer to it. What I can do from this page is I can create a meeting, I can select the meeting date, if it's going to be in person or virtual. And again, all of these options that we're seeing in the drop down, and obviously the employees that you're seeing here, are all totally configurable. And then I can generate a meeting invite. What it's done is it's taken the information out of that employee record and put it into the invite. So there's context, and I can create that and press save. And we can see that that's now been scheduled. As an employee, I can receive an email. I can click on to see what's happened, and I can add that meeting into my calendar. Now, the meeting's taken place, and this is us playing back through some of these scenarios. The meeting's taken place, and now as an HR advisor, I've received a task. And what I need to do is capture the outcome of that meeting. So I can come into here and start to actually fill in the details. What was the outcome? How long is the warning going to stay on their record for? And perhaps I want to generate a letter, which is going to go out to the employee and also, again, get held against the employee's record. But this letter itself, this document can be visible for the employee in their document section within the employee app, within the Sona app. Now, in this scenario, it actually goes through another stage where we've now got a disciplinary chair. They receive a task and so on and so forth. And we can see if any changes were required, if you can approve or decline the outcomes before finally it goes back to the manager. So this sort of shows you how complex you can, or how involved you can create a sort of process within Sona to map your internal company policies and processes. Now, bringing that into my demo environment and looking at Alan again, what I want to show you are some of the other scenarios that might apply to. So in here, I've got onboarding. And onboarding is an example of where a new starter joins the organization, and there might be some information that you want to capture on them to make them feel welcome in the business. We can see at the top, I've also got this AI summary. And in the real world, this would be automatically sent through to the employee. But for this demo purpose, I'm going to show you how we can force this type of information to be pushed through. So against the employee record, for any of you that are using HR at the moment, but against the employee record, we've got these 3 dots, and I can request data. Now, these are the different scenarios I've got set up in this instance. I can put a message in here, and actually what I want to do is ask them to complete an onboarding questionnaire. I can create a request, and that will either give me a link, send it via email, or send it directly to the employee via the app. What's really good about this is that you can build different personalities within the app now as well. So this doesn't have to be the Sona assistant as it is in our demo environment. This could be relevant to your business. It could be your HR assistant, because this or whatever your company name is. Now, if I was to push that through to Alan, what I've done is actually I've copied the link, because in a sort of Blue Peter style, here's what I've prepared earlier. This is where I've completed those onboarding questions. And what I'm going to do now is press save. And that's it, done. All of this can be branded. So it doesn't have to have Sona up at the top. You can have your company logo. And as you can imagine, within an app itself, where most employees are quite used to filling in forms now through their phone, or now that we have an employee app that they can access via the web as well, quite quick for them to sort of type that information in. So on my task page, we can see that's jumped up to 11, and I've now got in here some new data that's been received. If I go back to Alan's record, hold on. If I go back to Alan's record here, and I can then review the data that has been sent through, because perhaps what you want to do is just sense check what has been sent through before you push it through. We can see I use this scenario often. So let's review what they've sent through. And we can see that's the information that's been keyed in. And if I'm happy with that, I can press save. That's now been completed. If I look at Alan's record now in onboarding, I can see that information is now being passed through. And the great thing is, it's given me an AI summary. So the AI summary is looking at key information that's been shared down here. And in this example, it's actually suggesting some of the clubs that might be set up within the business. So this is great. I'm starting to get a really good feel of who Alan is. As a business, you can apply these AI summaries to each of those custom form and custom page areas. So whether that's right to work, disciplinaries, so you can start to see patterns. But how do I understand how well I'm operating as a business? How do I start to get insight? How do I start to identify the hidden talent, the people that I need to spend time with, the people that need some development? So added into Sona, we have a review section. And reviews themselves, again, custom forms and custom pages, allows us to set multiple review types. Again, these can be systemized, so it might be a pulse review that you want to send out every few months or every 6 months. It could be a mid-year review. I can put my review name and I can press save. And again, what I'm getting here is a list of questions, all of these completely bespoke by customer, the ability for you to upload your company values and sort of get information about how well Alan is performing against your requirements. On the right hand side here, I can also request feedback. So I could ask for some 360 feedback. And let's ask Barbara, please fill this in for Alan. Press add and send. So these again are examples. Barbara will now receive an email or a message via the app, depending on how you want that to be sent through, asking them for some 360 feedback. You might have noticed there as well, in the feedback section and the ability to request feedback, I can also do some self-reflection as well. So I could ask Alan to tell me how he thinks he's doing. And again, he's going to receive those questions. So if I was to go in and complete all of this, first of all, the insights would start to generate the feedback from all of the different employees, and then those summaries start to drive here. Rather than having to look at in each individual record, as well as our standard dashboards, we now have the capability for you to build your own dynamic reports. And these dynamic reports themselves are driven by the different forms and pages that you have got set up within Sona. So I can now see in here all of my employees, how they've responded to the questions themselves. And of course, things like job role and time in role will be automatically entered in based on the data that's held within the solution. And what we can see here is that this has actually got a filter on it. So this is one where I've looked at all employees who are suitable for a promotion. Now, if I clear those off, I then bring back a sort of much wider range of employees, but I can go into my filters, add filters, and choose. Perhaps I want to look at the employees who have got the highest scores or the lowest scores. One of our customers recently, who's in implementation at the moment, has asked us to build out for them something I would say is very relationable to a sort of 9-box grid, so that you can start to understand those people that you might want to invest time in, those people that perhaps you might want to think about, are they the right fit for the business, and or is the business the right fit for the individual? So we can really start to build out some powerful reporting, the ability to add in filters. And the great thing is, whilst these AI summaries themselves are looking at how the employee has responded, you could add an AI summary on top of the overall report. So if your 6-monthly appraisal is suggesting that 40% of your team need time management training because that's what's been identified through their appraisal, it can start to inform you on what you might want to consider as next steps for your learning and development plan for the year. So these are some of the examples of how we can really start to unearth that sort of hidden talent within the organization and drive that length of service and reduce turnover. I'm going to pause for a second because I don't touch the screen in case something happens. But Christina, are there any questions that I might be able to answer within the chat?
Not yet, but I do invite everyone if you would like to. Let's keep that on just in case we press something.
Yeah, I'm not
we don't
touching
want to
anything.
press.
Yeah.
But I do invite everyone in the comment section if you like to add any questions, or if you would like Paul to delve a little deeper into anything he's mentioned so far. I know this can be a lot, but yes, if you have anything off the top of your head. If not, of course, Paul will be able to go back to anything.
Yeah, I've got more to show, so don't worry. I just wanted to pause for a second to see if there's anything we could dive in on. Whilst people are thinking, the next thing that I think is Certainly, a challenge for businesses is around cost control and spend control within organizations. So recently we have built in functionality, and in the same way that I've shown you that workflow for initiating a disciplinary, you could actually build in a workflow for things like salary request changes or change or promotions, change in job roles, or movement from one location to another location. And that could be as simple as, I want to affect that change, and therefore it needs to go through to my line manager or through to payroll for them to ultimately approve or decline that change request. It could be a little bit more complicated. So it could be that if I want to give Alan a pay rise of maybe 2%, then I've got the capability to do that. But if I can't, that needs to go through to the next relevant person in that chain. So it allows us to start to introduce a full, almost like a procurement model within the solution for salary and hourly request workflows, for the permanent relocation of employees from one location to another, and equally from the other end, if I'm transferring an employee out from my care home, from my restaurant, whatever it might be, the ability for the manager receiving the employee to approve them coming into the organization as well. But whilst we look at cost control, we've recently introduced within our admin area here the capability to introduce a pay matrix. So what a pay matrix facilitates is functionality which allows you to put lower and upper bandings on job roles. It allows you to introduce grades against your job roles. So whether you have a level 1, level 2, level 3, however you might want to grade your employees, and also associate them to age bandings as well. Now, what that means is that as an employee, if I start with your organization and my manager is creating me as a new employee within the system, I can automatically have a lower banding placed against my my job role. I would also have an upper banding as well, which means that you can start to control wage spend, reducing any maverick spending or maverick hiring of people on a salary that is too high, as an example. Those are time bound as well, which means that you can start to build in next year's national minimum wage or living wage rates, to understand what impact that might have as a business, because it will look at all of your employees and where they sit in those bandings and start to inform you of what that total cost might look like. Where I think this gets really powerful is where you start to introduce the concept of agreed headcount by job role, by location. So by building that sort of information into Sona, you start to see what vacancies you have and potentially what cost you could be incurring if you were to fill to the full budgeted headcount. But equally, for succession planning points, are there employees within your organization that perhaps you want to promote as opposed to hiring externally? So do you have the skills within your team already to fill some of those roles? And that's where I think that combined blend of talent management and reviews, pay controls, sign off, etc., and agreed headcount and FTE and all of that good stuff that we can surface within HR starts to really help you to understand what your true human capital potential is within the solution. For me, I have always long wanted to build for HR professionals a sort of closed network LinkedIn. So for every employee holding a profile, you can see how their team feel about them, because peer-to-peer praise being something that's being released later this year. You can start to understand how long they've held their role for, and are they eligible for a promotion? Or perhaps that's something you want your employees to talk about. Within the app, would you want them to have a button that says, I'd like to be considered for a promotion, or I would like to attend manager training sessions because that's the next step for me? And once you start to get this very kind of detailed view of all of your employees and the gaps that you have, it starts to introduce that sort of ability to promote from within, which of course increases employee satisfaction and reduces turnover. Reporting has always been a key thing for us. So whilst all of these are sort of pushing out the ability for you to sort of click on and understand detail, we also have our dashboards. And many of you may be familiar with these within the sort of the scheduling side of Sona. But actually, as a business, if I want to look at my absence information and understand who's currently off sick, absence types by reason, what my absence looks like over the past 12 months, it's a very simple, easy dashboard for me to consume and understand what I need to act on. If you combine those with the triggers that we've looked at, which are activating tasks, you suddenly have a very compelling view of performance within your organization. All of our dashboards, you can see here, you can download the results in a variety of formats, and you can also subscribe to dashboards as well. So what that means is that dashboards or reports can be automatically scheduled to be sent out to the relevant audience members at a given point in time. So perhaps on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, you want to understand what the current holiday dashboard looks like. Rather than having to come into here, finding holiday, which again is not an arduous task, but rather than sort of coming in and having to review this information, I might want to have this sort of push through to all of my managers so that they can make sure that they are utilizing the team's time away from the business effectively. So dashboards themselves, highly insightful. Then we get into the world of AI. And lots of organizations talk about AI. I think what's really important is to sort of to frame this. We're at a starting point, and if any of you have heard the sort of the various presentations or podcasts that Ben Dixon, one of our founders and CTO, has delivered, you would assume by looking at LinkedIn that everyone has solved AI and they've got it absolutely sewn up as a business. It's not the case. There's probably a lot of AI tools that are being utilized across your organization, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's a cohesive plan as to how they're being used. And actually, when we've recently been talking to organizations, the key message is I use them, but I don't know if I'm allowed to use them, or I don't know how I should use them. So people have become very familiar with them. The way that Sona delivers AI and the capabilities that we can present through AI on top of those summaries has only really been capable in the last sort of 5 to 6 months, I would say. We've had them in lab tests, we've been using them, but the results have not been strong enough for us to sort of commercially deliver them to an organization where we believe in the consistency and the accuracy of the outcomes that they're delivering. Within Sona, we can see here, we have an agentic workforce. And the important thing about how these agents work is that in the same way with ChatGPT, they learn. You can give your agents a personality. You can tell your agents what's important to you as a business. So if you want an agent to look at employee behavior and how that behavior perhaps underpins your values or supports your values, it can start to surface that sort of insight for you. You could, of course, go that next step further where we talk about the crawl, walk, run. You could ask your agents to take action. So this sort of moves us from a place of summaries and calling out information through to making suggestions of things that I might not have noticed, but perhaps I want action to be taken. Now, I'm going to show you some of these examples. Opening up this sidebar here, so I know a lot of you will be familiar with the sort of the schedule view within Sona. I've got a few different examples of agents, and the one I want to focus on is this one, the people team, because I said that they've all got different behaviors. In this example, my KPI is very sort of head office focused, quite punchy in terms of the information it's going to share with me. The people team, dare I say, a little bit softer, a little bit more caring, but looking at people information. And this can look across both the schedule itself, but also the records held against the employee. And what I'm going to ask it to do now is make some suggestions. And you can see it's starting to think about this screen and the employees that are on this screen itself. And if I sort of move my cursor around, you'll start to see how it starts to look at different pages. So the first thing that it's noticed here is a challenge for Amelia. So Amelia's clocked in late for 5 shifts over the past 3 weeks. Now, I could look at my dashboard for that. I could look at my dashboard to understand time and attendance usage. I could see the flags. But actually, the way that this is starting to present itself is more around, is there something that needs to be done? Is there something that perhaps if I was to speak to Amelia, has she now got a personal obligation at a certain time of day? And actually, me constantly giving her a shift at 9 o'clock in the morning is causing her a problem, but she doesn't want to put her hand up to say that she's now got this other obligation in case it causes problems for her. So it starts to inform me of this information. I can see that Blake here has demonstrated the value of Own It. If I click into here, I can see a little bit more detail. As I scroll through, I can start to see more information. So I've got employees where I've got high level of holiday allowance. And so this is where the agents themselves are doing that task for you rather than you having to go in and interpret the data that is held against the employee records. It's starting to bring that information forwards so that your managers can go out and take action and focus on the things that they need to. Now, these examples that we give there, it can be very broad in terms of the sort of the feedback and the behavior and what it needs to look at. Perhaps there's a challenge around absenteeism. We'll always have dashboards that will support it. We'll always be able to introduce tasks which will be able to systemize it. But by having an agent that's just looking across all of those data points and trying to identify patterns for you, it helps you sort of then focus on taking action rather than having to spend lots of time looking at your reports to understand the patterns and unpick the details that are being held there. Christina, I've been talking a lot. I will come back to you to see if there are any questions, but equally open up to any questions if anyone has any.
I do think we have a question. Paul, I think Sadia would like to hear a bit more about revenues and forecast tab. If you can tell us a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So within Sona, dependent on industry, measurement is going to be a key component. And what this allows you to do, so the revenues and forecasts itself is a way of starting to key in information in regards to the sort of the measurements or metrics which are surfaced at the top of the schedule. Now, if I'm in the hospitality sector, that could well be a pounds value of revenue. How much do I think I'm going to take on a Monday or Tuesday? If I'm in the care industry, that could be my occupancy, or it could be amount of hours that I have to use. So dependent on what those metrics are, what those sort of North Star KPIs are that we would always suggest sort of live and breathe at the top of a schedule, and we can introduce those to customers now. This menu is where I can go in and start to influence those numbers by putting in actual numbers or forecasts. They can also be loaded via APIs. So if we have booking systems and for hospitality EPOS solutions, and they can also be uploaded via a spreadsheet as well. So I can go into here, upload a spreadsheet in one quick click. So if you're managing occupancy or service users, or if you're in a hotel group and you're looking at bookings and numbers of rooms booked, ideally we interface with that end solution but at the same time, you can load a spreadsheet in and it starts to inform the schedule. I hope that answers the question. I can definitely go into more detail on that, by the way, if there's more information you need to know. And perhaps, if you want to set up a secondary call, more than happy to do it.
Amazing. I think Sadia got her answers, but if you have any other questions, Sadia, or I saw Daniel typing as well, do drop them in the chat. Paul, if you want to we are approaching the end, so we will be looking to finish around 3 p.m. So anything you would like to find out, do let us know. Paul, feel free to take it from here.
Okay, perfect. So last thing I want to sort of circle back on. Oh, go on, sorry. You got a question?
Question came through. So Sadia would also like a little bit more for the care sector budgeting. So anything you can show us about that?
Yes. Okay. Well, what I'll do is in a second, I'll log into my care demo environment and show you how some of those metrics can be presented on there. Sorry, just had to get a spider off my ear there. Right. So last thing I wanted to show you, because this obviously correlates whether it's hospitality or the care sector, looking at other dashboards and reports. So for us, important pieces, workforce demographics. We talked about that sort of first page, first of all, but understanding your employees and what is the makeup of your employees. These are just examples of how you might want to look at employee data. And of course, things like nationality and gender identification can be added into these types of dashboards or reports as well. One thing that's really big for me is retention. I know lots of people call it turnover. I like to think about it as retention. But what is your turnover? What does it look like? How many people have started with you? How many people have left? One thing that I think is really powerful is the stability index score. So this is looking at employees with less than 1 year's service, employees with more than 1 year's service divided by employees with less than 1 year's service multiplied by 100 to give you a stability index percentage rate. For me, customer experience and continuation of care obviously is everything, and as many of our customers sort of feel the same. It doesn't matter how good a forecast you've got. It doesn't matter how good a set of metrics or values you have within an organization. If you haven't got employees that know your business and can deliver to your standards and have good length of service, it's very hard for you to deliver those customer expectations and deliver the service that you are expecting and have built that great reputation to deliver. So things like stability index, I think, is a really powerful tool, on top of looking at new starters and leavers and the reasons for leavings and all of that great stuff that we can introduce to you. But a recent addition that I think is very powerful for organizations. Now, I'm a little bit scared about how I'm going to do this, so I'm going to quickly stop sharing and hope that hasn't ended the webinar, and quickly log into my demo environment for care so I can show you how some of those metrics look. Whilst I do that, have there been any other questions?
Watching over Paul.
Yeah, I will genuinely say I didn't push a button. It just did it all on its own, which was always
we believe
fun.
you, Paul. We believe in you. So Daniel has a really great question, Paul. I think you can see it now on the screen. How much can Agentic AI interact with business performance as well as performance management? And then if it can integrate with third-party partners. So I think that's going to be fun to answer.
Yeah, so look, really key. When we look at scheduling, I think certainly when we're in that world of hospitality, but I think care is certainly kind of getting close to that sort of world of auto scheduling and ensuring you've got the right people at the right time of day. AI analysis becomes very powerful and very important. Where I think AI starts to really add value is if you're looking at things like contract mix of employees. If you've got 15 employees on a 40-hour contract, but there are 20% of your shifts that you can't cover because you just don't have enough individual employees. When you then have people leave the business, the way that AI might interpret a better usage or a better blend of contract utilization within that site. So you've got 2 people on 40-hour contracts leaving, hire back in 3 people on 20-hour contracts, because actually you're going to get much better coverage of care or customer coverage, that sort of stuff. It can definitely look at all the sort of the revenues as you expect within a solution. But yeah, no, absolutely. And integrations, we have built the way that Sona is built is always with APIs, whether that's those custom forms that we've looked at and being able to connect those through to asset management tools, through to our AI components, and the ability for us to, as new AI technologies become available, be able to swap them in and out. So nothing is hard and fast. So yeah, we are absolutely about connectivity rather than sort of closing the gates. So that being said, with nervous trepidation, I'm going to share my screen. So here we
Perfect.
go.
Just wanted to
Yeah,
remind you of Sadia's question, so a little bit more for budgeting for care sector.
yeah,
Hope that answered everything, Daniel. I know it was a bit quick, but absolutely we'll be revisiting this and we'll get back to you with a more detailed email if you want to look at Agentic specifically.
yeah, absolutely. More than happy to set up a call on that as well to go through it. So in my care environment here, here's an example of some of the types of metrics. I will say that the functionality, Christina's got your not on mute keyboard, sounds like a stampeding herd. What I can see up here are a sort of an example of different metrics. I would say that if you can build a formula in Excel, I mean, Excel is a very, very powerful tool, but if you've got this sort of spreadsheet in Excel, we can build it within Sona. So this is just an example of looking at available beds and occupancy. It's giving us an hour's budget. It's giving us hours actual, looking at what your cost, your usage is there, what the variance is. So that hour's budget can be driven by how many service users that you might have within a care home. As an example, the wage cost is built up based on the employees that are assigned to those shifts, but we can also build in things like holiday accrual, national insurance contribution, so employers' national insurance contribution, pension accrual, that sort of stuff, so that you can start to drive an actual sort of running schedule cost within your location. I think it's really important that if you're managing your employees and you're managing your employees' hours, you shouldn't have to be journeying out into another spreadsheet to understand whether or not you are managing your time effectively within an organization. So these are, as I say, these are just examples of the type of metrics that you might want to see. In this case, we've got some one-to-one care, two-to-one care as examples. So we can really sort of generate a whole sort of host of different views at the top of the rota, site by site, department by department. So I hope that answers the question for you. Good. Are there any further questions that I can answer? Someone's got a very peaceful background there with seagulls.
I do live in Scotland near the sea, so that's actually a live background.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, very happy we've answered Sadia's question. Final couple of minutes, Paul, if there's anything else you'd like to share. I'll just to make sure everyone will get a recording and a summary. So you'll have this to take back to your teams, for example. And of course, we're here if you want to learn more about anything specifically.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks all for joining. And sorry for the interruption. And thanks for coming back online. For me, I think that because of how we've built out the employee management functionality within Sona, the capability and the flexibility is vast, but still we want to hear from HR professionals like yourselves. So we'd love to get onto calls with you. You know, there's something that you've seen that you like, but you want it to, you know, you've just got a question about it, or you think about it in a slightly different way. Both myself and Zach, who is our head of product, you know, we'd be more than happy to come and meet with you, jump on a call, take you for a coffee or lunch, whatever suits. But it's our customers and our partners that help us get better. And it's, you know, it's something for me, I'm really proud of where we've got with it, but I think there's an awful lot more to come. So yeah, really pleased you all joined us today.
Sadia just wanted to see the employee verification section one more time, if we can do that. If not, we'll get back to you, Sadia, and just book a really quick call with Paul. That might be easier because then he can show you everything in perfect detail, if that's okay.
When you say employee verification, sorry, is that sending data or right to work?
We're uploading various documents. I think that's what Sadia mentioned.
So now I'm in my care environment, and this is Adelia that I can see here. So in this example, I've actually got a single central record. So by clicking in here, this is, again, slightly more advanced than just uploading documents, but this is where I could go in, add a document, add my document type. So it's a share code. Does this document expire? When does it expire, etc. And you can see here that because of the type of document, I can then start to see different fields and different items that I need to capture. Does it have restriction on working hours? So all of these pieces here are to enable compliance for you. There is no limit to the amount of documents you can upload within Sona, nor the size of documents. I think if you start uploading 20 gigabyte profile pictures to all your employees, we'd probably have a conversation with you. But really, for us, the ability to upload documents in whatever format that you want them to appear is totally your decision and bespoke to your business. So I hope that covers that off. But again, equally happy to jump on a call and go through it in more detail.
Just to answer Daniel, I'm pretty sure we can upload documents directly, like passport expiries, right?
From ATSs, absolutely. Or like, so yeah, I think that's a key thing. Really important for an applicant tracking solution. A good partner will be one that passes workforce documents, right to work documents through. They'll automatically get uploaded. The really good ones are where we're talking to them, you know, Talent Funnel, People Bank, all the others that are out there, about how, looking at that succession planning internally, we can inform your ATS. Right, we're promoting a supervisor to a manager. Don't hire back a manager, hire back a supervisor, and of course that's going to be reducing your recruitment costs as well. But yeah, everything's neatly passed through to the employee record.
And it can be uploaded as a scan or a photo. Okay.
Can be, yeah,
absolutely. For Daniel,
absolutely. But yeah, of course.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. You're always a star. I'm sure everyone agrees. And as mentioned, we'll be sending this over, and we can always arrange a follow-up. Thank you so much for your patience. And I will intentionally end the event now. Hope to see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks so much for your time. Bye-bye.